Hey, hey, how's everyone doing tonight? It's Thursday night and I'm off the clock. I just got finished with Thursday's day of work. Had some fun hey, thanks for the hearts. Had some fun phone calls today. Had a ton of work to do. It's one of those times of year. Hey, Lindsay, how are you? Hi, Milk and Sugar Co. You're making me hungry with your name there. Hi, Amber. How are you? Okay, so I have a little quick scope for you today. I know I always say they're going to be quick. Hey, and they're always not, but I swear this one will be quick unless you guys make it long. I'll put it that way, because sometimes you guys get really engaged and I don't want to stop the conversation. So unless you guys get really engaged, this is going to be short. I'll just say it that way. Okay, cool. So, rolling with the punches in business. So I feel like I actually did this a couple times today. Hey, sweetie. I have little kids over here, too. So, hey, you want to say hi to everybody? Come here. Look. Say hi. There's Maisie. She never gets on any of my scopes. Here, do you want me to throw it? Say ball. Say ball. That's like the only word she knows is ball. Say ball. Sorry. Thank you. So, hey, Angelica. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so rolling with the punches in business. I did this a couple times today, and I find myself doing this very often, actually. And I don't know if it's just like the older I get, the more it is easier to roll with punches, or if there's just more punches to roll with. I don't know what it is. But my first tip for you today, in rolling with the punches in business, and maybe this is even in life, anyways, but is number one, realize it's not the end of the world. So I feel like the older I get, the more I'm able to feel like it's not the end of the world. I feel like when you're like a teenager, it's like everything's like the end of the world. You're so over dramatic, and the older you get, like you're like, I don't know. I think it's based on comparison, perspective. So I feel like this is like the same thing even with business, is that pretty quickly, especially when you're running your own business, you have to be able to realize that none of it's the end of the world, or else you'll kind of go crazy a little bit. She's grabbing something maybe she shouldn't be grabbing. So like it's easy to start freaking out about your business initially. Come on, Lola. It's easy to freak out, right? It's easy to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have no clients, and this is gonna happen. I'm gonna lose all my money and whatever." But then it just takes a few times of that not happening for you to go, "Okay, well, maybe it really wasn't the end of the world." It's almost like, "Oh my gosh, he broke up with me. It's the end of the world. I'm gonna die. Da da da. What am I gonna do without him?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, actually, it wasn't really a big deal that guy broke up with me." It's kind of very similar, right? So. Number one, realize it's not the end of the world, really. And that can be with anything. Not answering an email right away, it's not the end of the world. Not missing a deadline, it's not the end of the world. I mean, we're not talking about heart surgery, people's lives aren't on the line. So thanks for the hearts, you guys. I know it feels like it, and I know it feels like it's the end of the world, but it's not. So that's my first thing, is rolling with the punches. OMG, and then you don't even remember his last name, right? And you're like, seriously? Like, I cried so hard about that guy, and I just, like, everything ended up working out. So, it's really good perspective. I love that, perspective was a good word. And my number two tip is to schedule for the crazy, right? Make some space in your schedule so that when crazy things do happen, that you have time to roll with the punches. So a lot of people really pack their schedules really tight, or they build their schedules based on exactly how it should go, but you should always pad in extra time for crazy. Hey, Rakita, how are you? So you always want to pad in time for crazy, because it will inevitably happen, and you're going to need that time. So when it comes to projects, make sure there's extra time for whatever, more time than you need. When it's, money-wise, make sure that you have, or when you're booking, whatever it is, make sure you give a little bit of space in everything that you do, so that when there is a freak out and when something bad does happen, when the unexpected happens, that it doesn't derail everything after that. It's not a domino effect because you had some space in there. That's something that I learned really like the hard way, and I try to do in my business at all times now. I always try to pad and expect in like literally every single day. Right, yes, for your family. Respective wiggle room. That's a good number 2. Schedule for space is what I called it. But yeah, even this is like even daily, right? Like hourly. I mean, give yourself 2 hours a day or whatever where that you don't need, and then you'll end up filling it with hot projects that you weren't expecting to deal with that day. That's what I do every single day. I have a place for stuff that I call hot stuff, and that's stuff that emails that just came in that I didn't plan on working on, or things that I didn't plan on working on that day, and those are those hot stuff areas, and they literally every day I have them, so I plan for them. And then my third tip for you is to have a really good contract and keep updating it. So this might be another problem that you're dealing with, rolling with the punches of, either a crazy client or someone that's a little much to handle, and that is when you want to have a really great contract to lean back on. And so it's really, really important to have a good contract. Make sure everything's spelled out, not just to protect you, but to protect them as well, in all ways, but also keep updating it. The ever updating contract. Yeah, so always want to make sure that you have something in there for the last time that something bad happened. So every time something happens to us, we're like, oh, okay, well that wasn't a great thing, so we're going to update. Like, for example, one thing that we're having to update on our contract right now is that we had a clause in there about not updating for really old browsers that aren't supported anymore. And we weren't very specific on what that meant. Actually, we were kind of specific, but the browsers get older and older every year, so we have to keep updating that every year. And so one of our clients wanted us to date it back to Internet Explorer 7, and we are having the hardest time even testing Internet Explorer 7 because it's so old. And also, we literally don't know anybody with a computer that has IE 7 on it. So the client and I are going back and forth and testing something where I think it's working because my testing is showing that it's working, but I can't really prove it because I don't have a computer to show it. So long story short, that was kind of some craziness that happened at the last minute, and it would have been nice to have that in a contract to say that we only test up to, I don't know, IE 9 or 8 or whatever, something like that. So that's a good example of that. So those are my 3 tips for you today. They actually ended up being quick, right? Not too many comments or questions. I think they're pretty straightforward. But that's the best way to roll with punches in business. So I'll do a quick recap. Thanks for the hearts, guys. Number 1, realize it's not the end of the world, really. Like, no matter what you're dealing with, it's never like the end of the world. It's always bounce backable, no matter how dire or crazy it seems. Trust me, it's bounce backable, because I've been through so much in the 7 years of business I've been in, and a million times I thought, no, this is the time, but it's not. It's just not the end of the world. And actually, sometimes when you roll with the punches, you realize it actually turned out better than you thought. So almost like with the boyfriend analogy that I said earlier, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I never ended up with that guy, right? Because that would have been bad. So it's the same thing with business. So number 2, schedule. Love it, thanks. Yeah, bounce backable. Yeah, hashtag bounce backable. Number 2, schedule for space. So schedule for the crazy. Know that every single day something crazy and unexpected is going to happen. So just make sure you schedule for that. Give yourself some margin, some white space in what you're doing, so that when it does happen, when that crazy stuff happens, when you get that email at the last minute and you need to work on something right now, that you have the time to do that. So be flexible in that. Number 2, schedule for space. And number 3, have a good, awesome contract and keep updating it. So every time something happens where you're thrown a loop and didn't expect it, protect yourself from it the next time. Make sure you have something in your contract about it, or have a policy about it, or have a process for it, so that you can be learning from your mistakes, learning from whoever's mistake it is, right? And fixing it for the next time. So those are my 3 tips. Thanks so much for the hearts, you guys. You guys are amazing. So awesome. You guys always show up and give me hearts and connect with me, and I love it. I hope this was helpful. Hope if you're dealing with something like that right now, if you're dealing with some craziness and you need help rolling with those punches, and some things are happening that you don't expect, hopefully that these will help you get through those. And I will see you guys tomorrow. I know it's already like the end of the day today, so this was my I didn't really get to do much scoping today, but I'm glad I got on once, even though I'm watching a crazy kiddo while I'm doing it. But that's the way things work out, right? I'm rolling with those punches, rolling with them, right? All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Love you guys, and see you tomorrow. Bye.